welcome and good evening to Adventures in DeFi Kingdoms. This is Raph streaming to you live high above the keep in the hot air balloon. Tonight, as always, I have Neindorf with me. Neindorf, how you doing?
It's a good night. I'm doing well.
Excellent. Very good, very good. I just got some pet feeding going on. All right, and so for the very first time, we have Eric, aka It Wasn't Me, live on the podcast. Eric, how you doing?
I'm good. Glad to be here.
Yeah, glad to have you. You are a longtime contributor in the ADFK Guild, active summoner and member. But why don't you give a quick, brief intro for our listeners out there? Who are you? Why are you in DeFi Kingdoms? And then maybe what are you working on in the bear market right now?
Okay. I've actually been playing for about a year now. I started July of last year. I had a friend who started playing. He got into the gardens. He doesn't really summon. He doesn't do pets. He doesn't get into the NFT aspect of the game. But he was like, "Hey, we were talking about getting into a game." I was more thinking like Rust or like Counter Strike or something. But he was like,
Sure.
"You like crypto? You want to play a game? So here's 10,000 jewel, and do with it what you will." And so I started learning about the NFTs. I started buying lore heroes and summoning, and then started talking to folks, and they were like, "Oh, this is how you summon for abilities, for mutes and stuff."
I need
And then
to talk to this friend of yours and figure out how he has the fortitude to just hang out in the gardens. My
No
money, I
kidding.
swear, just like disappears. So what's the secret here? We need to know.
oh, he's a very wealthy man. He has a successful business, so he has the kind of money where he can kind of just like give somebody 10,000 jewel. At
Ah,
it was at 17 cents. Um, he didn't get into at all time highs or nothing, but he he's kind of just swing trading jewel. He
Hmm.
took it out of the gardens. He sold it when it got up to 30 cents, and then when it got down to 10 cents, he actually texted me in Discord. And he was like, "I'm really liking the price of jewel right now," and then it pumped. So I don't know if that was him or what, but
There you go. Yeah.
uh,
Well, congrats. I mean, this is what I love about the game is that there are so many ways for people to, I'll call it quote unquote, play the game. The opportunity to summon like you're doing, or the opportunity to play the gardens and provide liquidity. Like that is a crucial part. Like if we didn't have people that wanted to provide liquidity and do trading, we would not have as stable of a coin. So, or coins, I should say. That's really awesome. So we're glad you're in DFK, and well, in ADFK, I should clarify. Tell us, what have you been working on? You're focusing on. I've seen a lot of your summons results. What else have you been going for?
oh, I personally like matching class heroes. Um, I don't always go for mutes. If I can get like a ninja or a bard, like the other day I hit a bard, um, with blue agility, swiftness stone, and got a tier bonus in agility. So I'm kind of just going for stuff like that. Like maybe not the best, like in terms of exalted abilities or whatever, but just I'm gonna get those capstone abilities. I like double toxic
Okay.
right now. I'm in like a double toxic kick. For some reason that's really hard to hit, but I've gotten a few. Um, I had a bard a couple or maybe last night. It's exhaust toxic and then got toxic in R1.
oh
So
wow.
just missed,
Hmm.
but yeah. I was going for transcendent when we didn't know like what any of the abilities were, It was just let's just go for Transcendent,
Mm-hmm.
and I hit one. It was on a seer, and I didn't know. I was like,
Resurrection
you
or
know,
Second Life?
Resurrection, and I was like, I don't know if this is cool, but I don't know if it'll get to get the move off.
Uh
I
huh.
sell the hero, then the codex comes out, and it's like, oh, this hero has the skill to just go first.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of like, okay, well, that was a nice hero, but I mean, I got the money for it. So yeah, I just kind of go for cool stuff like that. Double Giant Slayer, of course. I have one of those so far, but no Second Life. I haven't hit a Dread. I have a couple Goons. Those are probably my best summons.
I've not hit a dread either. Now I am stacking Second Life at the moment, and I mentioned to you guys just before I got on stream. This is a tease to a future ADFK stream. I'm gonna go. We're gonna call it something like "Give this hero a second life," and I'm gonna be giving away a Second Life hero. So I'll talk a little more about that at the end. But yeah, I don't have any. And now, have you purchased any dreads? Because I have not
I
built any dreads or purchased any dreads.
I've bought two. I bought one and then I sold it when Crystal dumped, but I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna get a ton of liquid for this. And then I got there was an Arbitrum airdrop and I got like some money for that. So I started reinvesting into DFK and some other projects. But one of the things I bought was a lead ability dread. And I know we're talking about burning heroes. I actually burned it going for a dread with a I think it was stun or giant slayer. I
Mm,
kind of forget now. And completely missed. I got a random class and a pre subclass, and the ability went R1.
that
Oof.
hurts. That's
Yeah.
that that makes brings a tear to the eye. That's painful. But you gotta play the odds and keep working on those monsters. So I mean, hang in there.
Yeah, I mean, like I know the risk. I knew the reward. The reward was fantastic, and it just didn't hit. I just didn't get that jackpot.
Yeah. Well, Neindorf, what have you been working on lately?
As far as heroes go, I had just been trying to collect at least one of every crafting where it's basically an element match with both genes specialized. So I finally completed that eight. And I know someone in our Discord was basically mentioning that they were, I think it was Meloch. I forget who it was. I can't remember. But they were basically saying that they had just done the same thing, only they were all legendary or better. And I was like, oh wow. Well, I have a
Took
lot
that
of
on
commons.
Yeah.
It's like so yeah, that was kind of fun. I do have two lightning double leather working miners, so it's a good overall hero, and they both have six summons left. So I'm gonna try to make a whole bunch of lightning leather miners here in the future. That's kind of what I'm at now. They're both like 800 XP from level 5, so I've been waiting the last week. I'm like, come on, just get the level 5, you guys, so I can get that extra couple strength.
That
Oh yeah.
extra, yeah, I've been certainly, putting my heroes, or having the bot take care of my heroes. I'll start calling it Neindorf Daycare or something like that. And that I find, I keep wanting to go after those two extra stat points, and especially when you're going for. So I've been really huge into the elite abilities. Um, I'm up to a fair amount of second lives now, and I'd like to give back to the community with the project that we have, that I just discussed, and I'm going for, trying to get high rarity second lives, and so I have a feeling that I'm gonna come close to the phase of the game where I'm going to be throwing them into the pit with higher rarity heroes that don't have second life, obviously, and I'm going to be doing a lot of crying myself to sleep at night, curling into the fetal position, and calling Eric for consolation, and he can pat my back virtually over the phone and tell me it's okay. He lost the dread night, going for the dread. So yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
I've
gonna
lost
need
it.
a lot of YouTube therapy from all our listeners out there.
Yeah, we've anyone who hangs out in the pits has lost. Just we can all share that camaraderie of just getting complete air.
Right, right. All right, so let's go to Neindorf. We had a great stream with Grady last week, and we talked about the game that we're developing. Um, Take us into Dev Dive a little bit. Walk us through what you've been working on and building, and you've been building stuff for the site as well. So,
Yeah.
yeah, let's talk about what you've been doing.
Yeah. So there's definitely ongoing, bug fixes and things like that. Like, for example, people were having trouble with registering for alerts because Discord, when they removed the, hashtag number scheme, there was some code that I had that was dependent on that. So obviously, I'm always doing some of that maintenance. We've got a lot of code on the site now. I mean, we've got features that some of them haven't been touched in a while. So some of that boring stuff I'm working on. Other things, if you guys have noticed, a lot more of our pages have like the spinning bar now when you click a button for a
Mm-hmm.
longer running query. That's like our query system, and I'm trying to move more and more pages to that system. And honestly, part of the reason for that is for the game. Because when we have this game hosted on the same site, we want it to be very responsive. We don't want people waiting. If somebody else's query is ahead of you querying 1,000 heroes, I don't want your game to get stuck on it. So I'm kind of making this system to try to help the site hopefully run a little more smoothly for long running queries. I'm trying to think what else.
Working towards
Skillet.
tiles, the art tiles. I'm excited
Yes,
about
that's
that.
right. Yep, you're starting to generate art for the main page right now. It's just kind of a list of links. We're going to have some tiles that we're going to put up here soon, so you give it a little more feel. Skillet pushed out the new the pet treats page where it gives you the best what the cheapest ingredients on both realms are to create pet treats. So that's kind of a cool feature. I saw someone had a Twitter post asking, "Hey, how do I calculate what the best option is?" And I was like, "All right, Skillet, I think you got this." And like 8 hours later, he pumped it out. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah, market
Um,
data and then over into regular pet treats. So that is awesome.
that's right. And then silly things like for our game, we got a lot of images that we're hosting. And the site is kind of a Heroku app. It's not really geared around hosting images and large files. So I've been kind of, looking into where we're going to host our images and some of that other boring dev stuff, but definitely necessary when you want to scale and want to add more and more features. You got to think about. So
Yeah, it's fun. I've been working on the imagery front, and it's been interesting. I've been learning Photoshop and continue to work on Stable Diffusion. Um, I've been really impressed with. So I actually have Photoshop Beta right now, and a combination between the two apps being Stable Diffusion and Photoshop has been a lot of fun. And so Stable Diffusion does a lot of my primary artificial intelligent generation of images, but Photoshop has a regenerative fill feature now, and so it helps me stretch our images appropriately for all these tiles that we're creating. And I'm finding that to be just fascinating how it works. And so you leave a little bit of the edges of the original image, and then it's been actually doing a phenomenal job. I don't even know if I've told you that I've been using this, and if you can really even tell, but it doesn't make the images look stretched or distorted when you try to put them into a different size format. And that's one of the challenges of Stable Diffusion is you get what you get. It's a kind of a square image, and you get it in that resolution. But then pulling it into Photoshop, it's making it a lot easier to edit, do all the traditional Photoshop measures where you're like combining images or modifying them slightly. But now I'm also like finding it's really useful for making them stretch and look good still.
Yeah, we also had a fair amount of fun playing around with ChatGPT in order to help us
Right.
fulfill
Or
random
the
NPC dialogue.
yeah,
And
that is fun.
oh man, I'd like to get into it, but we're not quite ready to spill any of those beans yet. So
Yeah. Well, we have some. I don't know. That's one of the fun parts about this project is like, um, we're finding ourselves kind of wrapped around these characters, and that's really cool.
and honestly, the other thing too is like I know we've said this in the past too, but it's kind of a learning experience. So, hey, if nothing much came of this project, that's not a big deal. We're just trying to have fun with it. We're learning as we go, other skills that we can utilize in the future. But we really hope people enjoy it and people will play once we get a product out there.
Yeah. Funny note. I gotta tell Skillet about this. You know how he's going for the clan skis. Uh,
Yes.
the Beeve just messaged me the other day, or this morning actually, that he has a Klansky hero that's a bit of a boss. It's a
Oh,
ninja, so let's see if we can. I asked the Beeve if it was for sale.
let's work out a deal.
Yeah, so we'll see. He didn't respond back to me. It's a pretty strong hero, so we'll see. Yeah,
Nice.
it's a ninja with giant slayer. Right.
Ooh.
Rare ninja with giant slayer too, so he's a boss, that's for sure. All right. Let's go to the
Can I
main
just
event.
say,
Oh yeah, go ahead.
thanks guys for making that site. Whenever I go on summoning sprees, I practically live on ADFK, just looking at matches and stuff.
Yeah, we appreciate that. And as always, community members out there, feel free to go to our Discord, post your features, because if I don't know about it, I can't build it. And I like to hear people's feedback. If something doesn't work well or something they're having problems, post it because probably somebody else is, but not everybody's willing to jump out and say, "Hey, I have a problem." So if you see it, let me know. If you got a feature, also let me know.
Absolutely.
All right, so let's go to the main event, and we wanted to talk about what, yeah, almost like a debate topic. What value does burning a hero bring? And it could be actually we'll probably even get this into the pet market as well. And so I put out on Twitter and out on Discord like who wants to talk about this, and Eric, you kindly volunteered to give us some of your thoughts. And so to kind of lay the structure here, I want to talk through this as I think we can think about heroes as both short term and long term crypto assets. They really are. They are NFTs, and those NFTs do earn value. They can earn a short term value in the quests that they have. They can earn a long term value with quests and potentially other purposes just because we don't know where the game will go. Um, so I'll turn it over to you first. When you look at my first question will be when you look at a hero, let's talk first before we talk about burning. What value do heroes provide in your mind? And yeah, let's just start there.
Okay. I don't usually buy heroes other than Gen 1s, Gen 2s, or an advanced class, or if it's a good match for something that I'm already working with. And then Gen 1s, I we already kind of talked about the tier bonus. I have 24 Gen 1s that I'm just leveling. Um, some are at 7, some are at 5, some are at 3 right now. I look for my Gen 1s matching class, subclass, profession, and then an ability match or two. Um, and I I think that there's a greater value in having a match to your hero if they're summoned, like if they have summons. So uh, yeah, uh, that's basically what I look for.
So maybe the value of a hero, I guess, yeah, that's a tough one. I think I I think if I go very generic, there's two values. There is the hypothetical combat value or crafting, let's say hypothetical value, some future feature based on
Future
their
feature, yeah.
genetic. And then there's the item gathering current value, that
Hmm.
how many items can this hero pull and what is that worth? So I think that's kind of how I usually bucketize it. Am I buying a hero or summoning a hero for future value, or am I buying or summoning for current producing value? So I kind of usually go that route. Like
I
for a
like
while, I was on a bender of doing thief fishers, trying to make thief fishers. I got a pile of them.
ninja fishers for sure. Like if
Yep,
I
that's
saw
another
a
good
good
one.
monk pirate pair, I was loading up on those, and then the floor for those Gen ones just skyrocketed one day.
Yep,
So, it's yeah, I do like my foragers and fishers. Obviously gardeners are usually your floor heroes nowadays. Um, and when I get rugged, like if I get like a summon and it's a gardener and it's basic, all basic class, I usually just post that on the floor and it sells, within an hour or so. Um, but once combat comes out, they're not going to be gathering materials, except for what you get for going through a zone. We don't know yet, right? So um,
right.
they all have value. It's just, do I feel like I manually quest? So it's like, do I feel like sitting here for 20 minutes sending it out, or would I burn it? I just have a higher risk tolerance than some people because I will burn heroes every now and again.
Hmm.
Um, I'm not opposed to selling. I'm not Christian Peter. I don't just hold everything. I I like to wheel and deal.
I do struggle with selling heroes. That is something that, and I think that might be like a third bucket of value, especially when you start looking at like um, Gen Zeros, the ability to create other heroes that I wouldn't quite put into the same bucket as those first two. Now, Neindorf, I agree with those buckets. Trying to play devil's advocate here a little bit. How do you feel about, like, wouldn't couldn't someone say that, when you're gathering, when you're going on quests, the items that you're bringing in, well, those are speculative too, because we're still in the alpha stages of a functional game, and so isn't it at all speculation at this point, or do you still feel like you would separate those into two buckets?
I think I would, and because there's a lot of people out there. I know I've seen, the Brown Gent. He posts frequently about, hey, been dollar costing out every month, into AVAX or something from his heroes, and I mean, it's real money. He's just selling all of the materials that they gather, and so I think there is real money there. Yes, their use is speculative, but you still on a DEX can sell and make money. So
Um,
I think, and one lesson that I've learned the hard way is in NFT Web3 gaming, it seems like the right answer is always sell early.
hmm.
Maybe not sell often, but sell early. Like, for example, we were talking about Dread Knights with Elite. Well, I have the first Dread Knight attempt I ever went for. I hit both Dread Knight and Elite. And if I would have sold that thing immediately, it would have been like $15,000. And now that same hero is level 15 or so, and is not worth even close to that.
A tenth,
So
a tenth maybe.
if even,
Yeah,
yeah.
if even, yeah. Yeah, and,
So
and part of
that's
that's, yeah, I think that's playing that future speculation too, and we are in an inflationary market, so inflationary situation with the hero. So I think that kind of nicely segues me into like the burning part of the conversation. And so, what value does burning these heroes provide beyond scarcity? Is there any? So walk me through Neindorf. I feel like in some of our conversations, and maybe I'm misinterpreting, but you feel like there's kind of an intrinsic value to burning because of this creation of scarcity. Do you agree with that, or do you feel like burning should be influenced by the game developers?
Yeah, so I would equate it, I got to go back to some other games, right? So if you think of any other game, let me look. I like to take Path of Exile because that's one I've played a lot. And there's seasons and there's, you level up heroes and eventually you get to the end and you get to a high level hero and you kind of get far enough and you're like, you know what? I just want to play again. And so effectively that hero, it just sits there. It's kind of burned in a sense. There's no more value out of it. And because in those games, the value was really the fun and that was the only value. So when I think of it in that regard, this is a weird Web3 gaming is very weird in the sense that you have these NFT assets that summoning is not going to go away. There's always going to be summoning. And so inevitably you can't have a market that only produces items. You have to have every healthy market has to have sources and sinks. So that's kind of where this topic I kind of brought this up to you as like, and it kind of came up too in the main Discord and even in AMA topics about burning heroes and or even the summoning cooldowns. And that kind of got me thinking that what I would love to see is, reasons for burning heroes, right? Dark summoning is a reason, but I think we need more reasons. So I don't know if that does that help? I mean, does that
Yeah, for sure. And by I want to pick or double click on what you're saying. You want reasons to do that. What does that look like to you? Is that a tangible benefit in game? Is it a speculative benefit in game? Like uh what would
I
you say
think
that
it's
is?
I, it's kind of like playing, going back on a Wayback Machine. It's like playing Halo in like ultimate mode. I know I'm probably going to die, but boy, is it fun. It's way more fun when you know you're living on the edge.
Yeah.
So, in my mind, I would love for any quest that happens in DFK beyond profession questing, any quest pretty much that you're out in the world, not in the castle, to have some percent chance of hero death. I
Ooh,
think it should
that's
be
bold.
if you're I think if you're closer to the castle, maybe it's a very, very small percent. Like it's like the chance of like finding an egg, right? Probably not gonna happen, but gonna happen every once in a while. Then the
So,
further out you get, the more probability of happening it occurs. Now you know my little lead into why that can be acceptable. I won't spoil it, but I want to give maybe Eric a chance to
yeah.
respond.
Yeah, before Neindorf burns it all down, Eric, what do you have?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
give us your thoughts on what is the benefit, or is there intrinsic value to burning a hero?
I've been thinking a lot about. I have about 500 heroes now, like 490 something, and a lot of them have like double advanced. A lot of them are common and uncommon. And I heard last week's AMA where they said that there might be like permadeath zones. I'm a Diablo 2 player, so I like how there's like hardcore mode where your character dies and you can't play it again if it dies. So I'm calling it like hardcore zones. I kind of don't
Yes.
like Nine Like there's always a percent chance of dying, like an egg, because I find like an egg a day. I would hate to lose a hero a day. But but I've been thinking these like common and uncommon heroes that like if I can send them into a hardcore zone and get like hardcore level loot, that's probably better than sending. I probably have 100, 150, getting 75 dark summon heroes. Half of those are going to be bricks. You know, a quarter of those are probably going to be air. And that other quarter is probably going to be really good heroes. But, if I get 150 heroes getting me hardcore loot, that's totally worth it to not burn them and just see what I can get. And they some of them will die over the long haul, right? But I can make more double advanced way easier
I,
than I can make a legendary ninja with Giant Slayer.
So I feel like
yeah,
you guys have
I like what
done.
you're saying.
Go ahead.
I the problem is with Web3 gaming, at every level there's a problem of resource accumulation and inflation.
Hmm.
every single level because nothing sits on someone's account and is untradeable, right? So like say you're playing Diablo and you have these awesome heroes and they got so much good stuff. Well, that's not a problem for the game developer. That's what everybody wants. Everybody wants to get the best item and they can get it with just playing over time. Like or like a Skyrim, right? Everybody gets leveled up to high levels and everybody wins. But this can't be that.
Hmm.
And so that's kind of where you can't I'm not trying to find the right words for it, but you can't basically have I don't think you can offer high level loot very easily. I think there's got to be tiers and it's got to build up. And to get to a quest that offers high level loot, I think you already have to lose a lot of heroes and a lot of gear, or it won't balance. It'll just be an accumulation. And inevitably, an accumulation is as the price drives to zero.
Yeah.
We don't know what crafting is gonna be like and like how you get
True.
a mythic level thing. There's still a lot of speculation, but I understand what you're saying that yeah, it does need to be tough. Like you should have to risk your I have a legendary archer spell bow with elite. Maybe I do have to risk that at some point. Maybe I do have to risk these dread knights. Maybe that next class above dread. Sometimes you're gonna have to risk that thing. Who knows?
Right.
So we've talked about this a little bit in the past, Neindorf, and I kind of am thinking like almost like a hybrid of both of what you guys are saying. And I go back to the concept that we've talked about since the beginning, that there has to be a combat mode in the game that makes it fun to play, and that combat has to be worth investing in. And so there has to be an element of competition and a element of almost, probably gambling's the wrong word, but educated investment in how your team can perform. I feel like that is the way that there is a creation of value, because in that system, there are winners and there are losers, and the losers and the winners feel like it's worth investing in the unknown and worth taking a chance on speculating on their own ability to apply their skill and their investments to trying to make this work, because that is like that has to be the end sync for all of this. And then if that works, that creates a system where now the loot that supports that system becomes valuable. And that loot is the output from the heroes. And I think that's a lot of what you were saying, Eric. But then I agree with you, Neindorf, that right now it's a bit of a runaway train on the heroes themselves. And so we should put some kind of burning mechanism into accumulating that loot. So I guess in a roundabout way, I agree with both of you.
Yeah, and I
I
think
think
that's okay.
I think both of our strategies are valid. Not a lot of people are gonna have 150 double advanced heroes once we get to a bull run and heroes value go up. And people aren't gonna drop 10K, just to match me or whatever. So I can do it, but someone who's just coming in July of next year, probably won't be able to do that.
It's a good point. Timing might be everything. Yeah. And there's a lot of things that I think Dark Summoning was kind of a game changer for this system. And I think there's other big features like that we're gonna see. I don't know, Raph, the one I pitched to you the other day. You want me to get into that one yet, or?
Yeah, let's get into that, because I think what, at least where, when Neindorf was kind of pitching this, I was a little skeptical in that, I started to imagine the pain that I was going to feel. And then as I started playing out Eric's, I almost like the same kind of argument in my own mind. I was realizing that it's going to be critical to the ecosystem. Um, and so I thought that you presented a very uh, provocative idea around this with which is, like the every time you send out for a non-profession quest, you risk burning a hero. And of course, the non-profession quests have to be really where the loot's coming from. Um, and that feels like that feels like ouch when I hear that. But you have an idea that kind of balances it out or reels it in. I'll let you yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so basically, think of some of those RPG games where you're out in the world, and if your hero dies, right, they kind of become the spirit, right? And you have to get resurrected, and you go back to the shrine or whatever it is, right? Insert game here. Um, I think that's something that they need to do here. I think if you have say you've got that your best Dread Knight you have out there, and he's out just mopping things up, but you get unlucky and he dies on some quest, and maybe it's even a PvE quest where you're actually controlling him. That's
You
okay
get
though.
critted by the mini boss.
Yes. And I think that's okay because what I think happens is he becomes a spirit. I would love to see a system where you then have, say, 7 days to go find, say, two other heroes that you sacrifice to bring him back. And all of his gear that he had, if he had a pet attached, all that stuff's burned. But the hero itself can be resurrected by sacrificing, say, two other heroes. I think that's a huge mechanic where you could make everything have a chance of death. I mean, there's just a lot of heroes out there now. We could easily curb that system and make summoning something that people need to do in order to keep the cycle of heroes burning and growing, endlessly.
Hmm.
So that's kind of the crux of it, I guess. I like that concept where you have an army. A lot of us have armies of heroes, and there's a lot of them that we don't necessarily need. And this is a great mechanism where you could utilize those unnecessary jobbers to bring back your monster n number of times. And I think this even works for Gen Zeros. I think for Gen Zeros, it's a 7 day, you have to spend two heroes to quote unquote bring them back, but that 7 day period is infinite. They're ghosts forever. If you choose not to bring them back, they're just sitting there
So you
as
could
ghostly
always bring them
NFTs.
back if you wanted to.
Oh yeah, but you can do it whenever. Yep, that's right.
Got it.
And
I
so
like
that's
that
the
idea.
bonus of a Gen Zero.
Yeah, no, that's a good idea. Even like if like the spirit could like heckle you, just like you suck,
Oh,
why'd you let me die?
oh, that would be great.
So,
Oh,
a question here. I think where we're looking at this being an inflationary asset right now, and Niner, if you're describing some deflationary measures, and those will always be in flux and in balance. Where where will the value of heroes land in the future? Because when I'm thinking about a system you're describing, while I find it kind of exciting on one hand because it raises the value of heroes, it also makes them a lot more dispensable to the point of will and I guess then while I say that out loud, it's the alternative is even worse that heroes drop to no value
right.
at all. So, do you guys think that heroes will ever reach the value that they once were when Jewel was $20 a Jewel? Like, even if Jewel goes up in price, heroes aren't tied to Jewel, they're tied to the playable token. Um, and so, will heroes ever return to that value? Or when the meta shifts, you know what? Maybe I'm okay with my legendary thief dying because he was a thief priest, not a thief dark knight. And a thief dark knight is the new combo for the new meta that is supporting the current version of PvP. So where do you guys think about that? Like, could heroes just essentially become kind of a like only Gen Zeros really hold a lot of strong long term value? Regular heroes kind of might become less viable in the future. What do you guys think?
Think floor heroes are never gonna be $800 again, but it depends depends on how you want to play the game. If you want to fight PvP, PvE, and be good, there's always going to be value in having that top tier combat elite transcendent ability hero. I think there's going to be a lot of value in the upper epsilon of heroes, but the floor is just not ever going to be, like I said, $800 again.
Yeah, and I think you're absolutely right. And I think that's why I want to help. I want to create a system that eliminates a lot of these jobber heroes because if you don't and you have a bajillion base level mats, those drive to zero with like we're
Hmm.
seeing right now. And because they're produced in just vast quantities. And so you and that's where I like that concept that you burn jobbers in order to keep the monsters alive, and then that way the mats become more expensive, therefore crafting is more valuable, therefore armor is more valuable. So like if you can raise the value of the floor mats, everything above it raises in value. And I think that's the economy. It's the trickle up cost, right? Because if the base mats are expensive, so I guess a way I'll phrase this is I don't know if you guys have noticed, but if you look at the market prices on a lot of the items that you get from questing now, it is basically pegged at what the vendor will sell it to you in gold, which tells me that we have hit a rock bottom and all that these things are worth is what you can sell them for gold. And that gold then you can turn around and sell for jewel on the decks or something. But the next problem then is then you're going to create billions of gold. And luckily for us, gold does have a lot of use cases still. Even duels burn some gold. So I think that helps. But we're basically in a system now where you're driving down the gold price if you're not careful. So that's kind of what I'm seeing.
I see that
I mean, I
as
stop at two heroes to resurrect. I mean, let's say it was like a rare hero. You're trying to burn commons. It could take like five commons for a rare, and then if it's like a legendary hero, it takes like seven commons.
So
Like,
it's funny you mentioned that because that was a thought I had is what if it's two heroes of equal or greater rarity?
hmm,
yeah,
So think about that. That would make mythic prices kind of tank though, I think, because if a mythic hero died and you had to burn two more mythics to recover him, that's too much. Like I think that's way too much of a penalty. But I
hmm.
like your concept that maybe it's there's a formula, right? Where it's you need X number of commons or Y number of rares or something like that. That's very interesting.
I love it.
yeah. Concept.
All right. Well, I think I'm gonna kind of end and take us into kind of the wrap up phase here with what Hubert asked us on the last AMA. I think it was the last AMA. Maybe it was two ago. Um, and Bolon did too. If this is important to you, let's write a post and let's upclick it on the Kingdom Builders app. I think, we're all in this together and we have these assets. We've talked before about the kind of the challenge of summoning, but didn't quite hit the nail on the head, in my opinion, of what are the ramifications of these assets falling to the value of zero. And this might be a more dire situation than we had previously thought about. So this might not be the last or the final solution or the only answer, but I think this is an opportunity for us to speak up. Where if you're listening to this podcast, you're undoubtedly an investor in DeFi Kingdoms in one way, shape, or form. Um, and so give us your feedback. Give the team your feedback. Let's write some things up on Kingdom Studios on the build site. And then Neindorf, I'll kind of let you go first with, I suppose, your closing argument on anything else you want people to know as you're asking them to advocate for change.
Yeah, I think it's basically it comes down to don't like you mentioned earlier, this is an alpha phase game, right? It's a lot of the game is in the decks and summoning, which isn't the actual gameplay yet. So for all we know, they do have good concepts and they have good burning mechanics in mind. But I think it is up to us as the community to help them um, by offering these suggestions and putting our brain power together and seeing what we can come up with. And yeah, this was just kind of a random idea that I had come up with that kind of seemed to help and felt like could prop up that base cost of floor heroes and floor mats. And also while not making it super painful to pay that cost. Um, and I think this exact same system kind of works well for pets because if you've got a pet applied to a hero that's out and about, I think, and that hero dies, well, that's just gone. Otherwise, I think there's an even greater risk of pets driving to zero in the near future than there are heroes, because pets honestly have very little intrinsic value, in my opinion, at this moment. The only ones really are Power Surge. There's only a couple ones like Power Surge pets are valuable if you've got large gardens. Otherwise, honestly, most of them have little to no value. You're better off having two heroes than a hero and a pet right now. So I think I'm even more concerned about pets in the short term, but I think these systems can work for both. So I think, like you said, Raph, let's get people's ideas. Let's keep them posting. Let's get some comments going. Let's let them address it at an AMA, and maybe we can help guide this game in a way that everybody wins. And it's painful at times, yes, but like you're saying, Eric, with the hardcore mode, that's where the fun's at a lot of times, though, too.
You gotta risk it to get the biscuit, man.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, my
Yeah,
my my
Eric,
my,
give
my
us your
yeah,
closing thoughts here.
my thoughts are once the price of heroes goes up, there's gonna be a lot of people more willing to sell their heroes. So you might not want to burn all your heroes because all these new players are gonna want to get in. There's already a bottleneck of how many Gen 1s can get produced because of how many Gen Zeros there are. Um, and then it was that hero thing, guys. You can wait to use the summons and get a tier bonus. That's the built-in mechanic to stop hero inflation. Whenever I'm summoning, I decide this hero has summons that I want, and there's other heroes that I decide I'm gonna hold off on summoning with this one. So I'm scrolling through ADFK and I see, you know, this one's 3 of 5. Okay, I guess I'm using this one. I'll find a match for that one. If I see it's 6 of 6 or something, I'm like, I guess I'm holding off on that one. So we need to come up with strategies to, you know, kind of stifle hero inflation while gaining stat points. The benefits that they have put in there. It's kind of my main thing. And then dark summoning. Um, Try to never um, do a match that gets you common. Like always go for like a higher guaranteed parity. That's one thing that I look for. Unless it really is like a perfect match. If it's class, subclass, and then like 3 abilities or something, maybe just rip it. But yeah, that's uh that's kind of my closing stuff.
Love it. Well, I appreciate you coming on, Eric, and thank
Thanks
you,
for
member,
having me.
for your thoughts on
Yeah,
this too. And
absolutely.
yeah, thank you for all of our listeners out there. And this is it for us tonight. We are not planning on doing a summons night here, but I know I have a few things that I'm working on that it'll take a few more levels. So maybe we have one in a couple weeks coming up.
Sounds good. Look forward to it.
All right. Well, thank you. You guys have a great night.
You bet. Good night.
All right, thanks.